All right, here we go. The news and you, a prepper's perspective. What's in the news and how it could impact you for December 17th. Starting off, the looming financial crisis. More talk in the news of gold and Bitcoin hitting highs. Bitcoin over 100,000, gold approaching 3,000. Talk of higher inflation in 2025, increases to the interest rates rather than cuts. Lots of things in the news about, not just in the news, but that I'm seeing and experiencing and talking to people is more cuts, more job cuts. Mitigation. What do we do? Well, financial crisis is something that is pretty much guaranteed that will impact us in one way or another. So it is something we have to prepare for. It's not, is there going to be an asteroid or a meteor or a nuclear war, an EMP, alien invasion, any of those lower potential probabilities. You will have some financial crisis in your lifetime, whether it is good or bad. Again, this is impact on objectives is what we have to look at from a risk management perspective. So even if you were wildly successful in your financial career, you might be too successful in that. How do you do estate management? How do you pass that on if that's your desire to the next generation, to your future? How do you want that to be used for that? Your kids, your grandkids. So that again is financial preparedness. So track your spending. Start with that. No matter what your income level, no matter who you are, what your net worth is, you should know what you're actually spending things on. Determine the essentials. So, is it your utilities, your food? Yes, food is essential, but then once you determine what you're spending, you can look at how you're spending it and what you're spending it on. There are ways to scale back even on some of the essentials like food or your utilities. You can put on another sweater and lower your heat, things like that. Determine the essentials. Cut spending now. Get ahead of it. Don't wait until the last minute to say, okay, well, now that I've lost my job, or now that interest rates are rising, or now that I have to renew my mortgage, let's look at it now. Don't do that. Start tracking it now. Cut your spending now. Build an emergency fund now. No matter how small it is, start putting a little bit away. Whatever you can, try and build up 1 month of expenses and then 3, and keep building it from there. You can always, use it if you say, well, I didn't need it for an emergency. You can always tap into some of it later on for something else. It's not money wasted. You'll sleep better for it and you'll be in a better position. Get more income, preferably from a second source and not just a raise from your only job. If they say, well, we'll give you more money, but you have to work longer hours, you have to work harder. Now, if that's your only option, sure, that's still more money. That'll help build your emergency fund faster. But you are still reliant on that single source of income. So if you have the ability to start, branching out and getting a second source of income, preferably one that can be turned into a passive source, one that you don't have to be there as much, that's better. Start looking at these things now. She will not be missed. So this was an article that was talking about the recent resignation of Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. And in it, the article, Trump said that the former Deputy Prime Minister's behavior was totally toxic, not conducive to making good deals for unhappy Canadians, and that she will not be missed. Well, no matter what you think about politics, Trump, Freeland, think about what you can learn from this. So what are your contingency plans for those staff that you may identify as being key? So how are you, how do you identify these positions? How do you attract good talent? How do you keep good talent? And how do you develop plans to ensure that your objectives will be met should key people not be there anymore? And this could be either through, in this case, resignation, or it could be through an accident, an injury, maybe a happy thing like winning the lottery. Like everyone says, oh, if I get hit by the lottery bus, now what do you do when a key person is not there anymore? What are your succession plans? Whether it's for the board, the CEO, key operational staff, frontline staff. It's not just, quite often I see succession planning from a company and they only look at what happens if a board member is hurt or if the CEO is hurt. Okay, well, what happens if your key people who are actually on the front lines doing the work don't show up? What about for your family? Look at it from that perspective as well. Are you the only income source? Look at it from a contingency, whatever that is, whatever your objectives. Who are the key people, and what are you putting in place in case they are unable, for whatever reason, to not be doing what they do? Canada Post may be in worse shape after a strike, but arguably everyone else might be better. More people are finding other ways to get parcels delivered. This is good business continuity and resilience lesson. What are your contingency plans for delivering packages? What about for receiving packages? Have you gone paperless wherever you can, so you're not dependent on having a paper bill or invoice or whatever it is delivered to you via the mail? Have you set up auto payments instead of having to wait to get that bill? And then I've seen this before, people running into the bank, I have to pay this bill today. Well, can you set it up for auto payments? So look at these things. It's just like when we imposed sanctions on Russia and kicked them out of SWIFT. They developed other ways to still conduct business. Did it impact them? Sure. Are they working around it? Yes. Drone detection and defense. Lots still in the news about all the different drone sightings and speculation on what and why, when and where next, all of these things. Let's look past that for now. And what can we do as individuals? So if you're concerned about drones, let's just look at, okay, but what are the risks? And you might say, well, the risks are that I am being observed. I don't want to be observed. I like my privacy, and I don't want to be observed by drones. Or maybe you suspect that the risk is that the drone has a means of attacking you, and a lot of them have that capability. So start by identifying the risks. If your objective is to not be observed for whatever reason, to maintain your privacy or whatever it is, okay. So first we have to be able to know if the drones are there, if they're a problem. So how can we detect them? Do you have binoculars? Let's keep it simple. Do you have binoculars, a good scope on your rifle? Do you have an electronic means? Maybe you're very savvy technologically. Good for you, right? If you can develop a means to detect drones using technology. So now detection, that's the first bit. How do you deter or defend against them? You could have high tech. Again, for those that are technologically savvy, this might not be that complicated for you, but drone jammers, ways to interrupt their signal to either make them land, return to their base, confuse them, whatever it is. So there are drone jammers, maybe medium technology, net launchers, wires. If you don't know what Ebola is, look up Ebola. Is there a way you can bring this drone down by, basically blocking or gumming up the rotors? I've heard of people training falcons and birds of prey to attack and bring drones down. If you can do that, that's super awesome. Maybe you have wires that you feel, maybe you're on a property and you have the ability and the desire to string wires to have the drones run into them. Now, you may not want to leave them up, but maybe you have nets or something you could put up at a heightened level. Maybe, again, go back to your security levels. As you go through different notifications and security levels, what do you do at each level? Do you have heightened vigilance? Do you have neighborhood watch to look out for drones? If privacy is the concern, do you have curtains on your window? Do you have blackouts you can put in? Do you have good insulation to help block thermal detection? Different things like that. Think about, again, what are your objectives? If it's privacy, and can you draw the curtains if you're suspicious that a drone might be hovering outside your window and peering in? Curtains up. Do you have camouflage on your outbuildings or your vehicles? Camouflage nets or painting to help confuse or obscure detection. or observation of what you want hidden. Low tech. Well, again, that's kind of bringing that drone down, whether it's with the slingshot, paintball, pellet, other projectile chuckers. Now, again, there are laws and things you can and can't do and should and shouldn't do. However, as one article said, um, it was in the States, and they said, well, even if this is the legality of it may not be at question, but there are safer spots in the country for drones to be flown and some that are not as safe for the drone. So think about all these things when you're looking at it. Again, start with risk management. What are your objectives? And what controls can you put in place, or how do you achieve those objectives in the best way possible? Travel advisories. 14 Mexican states, high violence and crime. Cuba, shortages of essentials like food, fuel, and medicine. UK and Italy, increased terrorism threats. Parts of California, Texas, and Arizona, and New Mexico, increased crime connected to drug trades. All over, there's advisories, lots of advisories all over the place. Israel, of course, into Russia, the Ukraine, lots and lots. The whole point is, again, we want to go back to risk management, and awareness and information are key to all of that. So start with what are your objectives, and if it's to have a safe holiday, a safe trip, then get information. Look at the travel advisories before you start planning. If you have options of where you go, maybe there's a few destinations that you have in mind, have that way into it. Are there any current travel advisories for the place you're wanting to go? And if there are, okay, now what are those risks? What controls can you put in place to bring that threat level or that risk down, whether it's decreasing the probability of something happening to you or impacting your objective of having a safe trip and a fun trip, or can you decrease the probability or decrease the impact? All things to consider. Break it down to risk management. That's it for today. Thanks so much. I hope you liked it. Share and subscribe.